Good evening and thank you for bearing with us. Welcome to the special meeting of the Salton Sea Authority for Thursday, June 15th. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Director Kelly, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Director Kelly. For those of you first time at the dais, down at the bottom of your microphone, there is a button that's red. Press it, it turns green. Then those attending online can hear you. I'm going to go ahead and ask the clerk to do a roll call.
President Plancarte,
Here.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Vice President Santillanes, Director Tortes,
Here.
Secretary Estrada,
Here.
Director Aguilar, Treasurer Cardenas, Director Dockstader,
Here.
Director Perez, Director Gutierrez. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll go ahead and open the public comment portion of this meeting. This public comment time is reserved for comments on matters that are not on today's action. You are invited to speak to any specific action item listed on the agenda at the time that item is called. All other items should be addressed at this time. Please, so we'll start with those present in the room. Do we have any public comment in the room? None? Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have anybody indicating public comment online?
Not at this time.
Okay. Give it a couple extra seconds. Appearing to be none, we will go now on to board member comments. This is a time set aside for members of the board to share their thoughts or concerns regarding general authority matters not on today's agenda. Ask questions of staff or request that items be added to future agendas. The Brown Act expressly prohibits lengthy board discussions on matters not on the agenda. The board may, at this discretion, by a 4/5 vote, add items deemed to be an emergency to the agenda to engage public discussion. Okay. We will start with Director Kelly.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Director Dockstader.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Director Dockstader. Director Tortes.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay, we will go now to directors online. Director Estrada.
No comments.
Okay, are there any directors online which have joined us and I missed?
Not at this time.
Okay. We will then now go on to action items. Agenda item 4A, SB 535, Salton Sea Conservancy. This will be presented and introduced by Mr. O'Dowd.
Chairman Plancarte, members of the board, we are together this evening to discuss Senate Bill 583 by Senator Padilla. The reason we are calling a special session is because we had learned at 12:15 on Tuesday morning that the bill was going to be heard in the assembly. And based on prior discussions and information that we had been gathering from the senator and his representative, we thought it was relevant enough to gather the board together to discuss our current position of oppose and consider possible alternatives that might facilitate a more effective solution to this challenging problem. I'd like to first turn the discussion over to Horacio Gonzalez, our advocate in Sacramento, to briefly highlight for the board the status of the bill, the process that's undergone, and where it's going forward from here, and then we'll discuss it further after that.
Thank you, Mr. O'Dowd. Mr. Gonzalez, good afternoon. Good evening.
Good afternoon, directors. It is always good to see you. So the bill has been referred to the Assembly Natural Resources Committee. As Patrick noted, it was originally set for the 19th, but the committee has opted to move the bill by a week. So it is now set for June 26th. In terms of the process going forward, once the bill is heard on the 26th and the committee dispenses of it, the bill will then, assuming it passes, will then go before the Assembly Appropriations Committee. The Appropriations Committee will have until the end of August to determine if it will allow the bill to move forward or if it will stop it for the year. As we've discussed in previous board meetings, the Assembly Appropriations Committee will largely look at this bill from the prism of finances and how much it'll cost, given the state's existing budgetary constraints, and then make a determination at that point of whether or not the bill will move forward. If the Assembly Appropriations Committee advances the bill, it'll then go before the full Assembly for a vote that would likely occur in early September. Actually, it'd be closer to mid-September before the Assembly adjourns. Now, depending on if the bill does take amendments, there is a possibility that the bill will have to go back to the Senate for a concurrence vote. Usually it's a very simple procedural process that takes place the same day the bill is passed by the Assembly, but that is the process as of right now. And again, the bill will be heard on the 26th, and then it'll go Assembly Appropriations and then Assembly floor.
So that's a little bit about the process going forward. I'd like to go backwards a little bit. I think it would be helpful. I do have a memo in the board packet and available on the website that kind of provides a much more detailed discussion of what we'll cover this evening. But before I get started, I want to say that I'm thankful for Senator Padilla's interest in creating action at the C. I think that, you know, him being newly elected in November of last year and launching in the very first months of his position as a senator representing this area, to try and do something substantial to help the C, I think is something to be commended. Our concern from the beginning, when we first heard about this in September, was the unintended consequences of what was being proposed. The Salton Sea Authority actually was looking at a conservancy as an alternative to dealing with certain specific issues at and around the sea, relating to the work being done by the state in coordination and consultation with the authority. But we had never considered it as a tool for implementing the Salton Sea Management Plan or being associated with that. So since the senator first introduced his legislation, and as it had been amended, we continued to express our concern with the legislation and requested of the senator that he make it a 2-year bill to give us enough time to understand the complexity, understand the unintended consequences or the known possible consequences. But we haven't reached a point where we're in agreement on making that happen. When we were at CVAG last week, Mr. Dan Reeves, Senator Padilla's chief of staff, was discussing one of the objectives of the legislation and highlighting one thing that we all agree on, and that's that the operations and maintenance of these projects being completed under the Salton Sea Management Plan are as now completely unaddressed. So we thought, and in fact, going back to when we first considered a conservancy, we thought that there may be a lane if this conservancy could be configured in such a way that it's created specifically for the purpose of receiving completed projects under the SSMP. And then we could work together to help facilitate the funding of that. And they can continue to operate those projects, do improvements upon those projects, whether it's parks or trails or whatever the Conservancy might choose to do with those projects once they're transferred to that operating entity. And the states has dispensed with its obligations under the QSA and under the Water Board order. So what we've done and what you have in your package is a suggestion that we can of some language that would amend the bill to make it strictly for the purpose of receiving completed projects pursuant to the 10-year plan, the long-range plan, and the core feasibility study, and operate and maintain those properties in perpetuity. We believe that that's a more appropriate role for a Conservancy to play rather than implementing environmental mitigation on behalf of the state's liability. So that language is in your package for discussion, for consideration, and staff is recommending that we, if it's acceptable to the board, that we would take the position of oppose unless amended and support if amended, because it would be helpful for us. We want to have a long and productive relationship with Senator Padilla, and it would be helpful for us to start out on the right foot with a piece of legislation that we're both successful with and happy with. Many more things to do, no doubt. We aren't going to accomplish everything in one piece of legislation, but we believe that what we outlined in these changes should be helpful and constructive. And with the board's concurrence, we will present them to the senator and see whether or not we can get some movement on this issue. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. O'Dowd. With that, we will go ahead and come to chambers. Any questions from directors, discussion?
I do have a question, Chair. So the only action before us is to consider either changing our position to oppose unless amended or support with amendment? Is that
Well, it
what
would
you're
be the same.
proposing?
Yeah, it would be, I would not recommend we change our opposed position unless, other than to suggest we would oppose it unless amended. If we went, so we would have a position that would be, we intend to oppose this unless it's amended, but if it's amended, we will support it. Right? So it's kind of two positions at the same time. We could take a position, oppose unless amended, then we would be neutral. Right? But I believe that, the authority, Horacio and I work together to try and develop a framework for implementing a conservancy precisely for this purpose. And we believe that for the benefit of the effort, it may be helpful to consider actually supporting the senator's bill if he receives our amendments and moves forward in that direction.
So the request and from you and Mr. Gonzalez is change position to oppose unless amended?
So our first is to accept the language as proposed. And if the senator accepts the language as proposed, that the authority's position would then be oppose unless, it would be oppose unless amended. We would present the language to the senator, but we would also inform the senator that if the language is acceptable to him, we intend to support
On a
the
subsequent vote at another date.
I think it's all one vote. I think we can do it all right now. I think we can take the position that if this language is in the bill, we support it. And without this language in the bill, we are opposed to it. I don't think it would require any additional action by this board.
All motion to approve. Oppose unless amended.
Okay, we have a motion. We're still
Does that-
under director comments and discussion. We're
Does that
still
include
here in
the support?
chambers.
Or not?
Chair, not sure if you can see my hand is raised.
I do. I'm doing just a check here on chambers first before I go to those online.
I just want to say, I understand the need for, maybe changing some of the wording. However, I also still feel it's important that I'm also aligned with the district, the Imperial Irrigation District's viewpoints. And if we're still at a watch and see, then I'm gonna watch and see. So I just want to give you my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay. President Torres?
Yes, thank you. I'm also in agreement with the motion to support unless amended, but I also noticed when I was talking with the council on this conservancy bill, a huge concern that we saw in there with Senator Padilla attempting to define tribes in section 2, when he put a tribe is a federally recognized or a non-federally recognized tribe, that would create a huge problem with the tribes that are, within this area. And it also says that when they're developing the conservancy, 5 members would be from members of the tribe locally around the Salton Sea. Well, there aren't any non-federally recognized tribes around the Salton Sea. So we would respectfully request that be cleaned up to say that the tribes mean any federally recognized Native American tribe, period. Again, that non-federally recognized Native American tribe just opens up the door. And I know he's trying to mimic what Native American Heritage Commission has adopted. That in itself has divided the tribes within California. So that is a huge concern for the tribe. Again, we as Torres Martinez tribe are in support if it is amended.
Mr. Chairman, at the direction of the chair and with the concurrence of the board, we can receive the language from the tribe and include that in our amendments.
Okay, that's good to know.
Accept the amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have an amended. We're still during comments. We're gonna go ahead now to those online. Director Estrada?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to repeat that I think we all know that that when we brought up this topic, it was with the sole intention, I think, as our executive director has stated multiple times, that it was with the idea that we needed a funding stream for purposes of addressing the O&M of all the implemented projects by the state, and nothing more. And so any bill that creates conflict, that creates more bureaucracy, I think is not beneficial. I reviewed the language. I'm in agreement. I want to thank Horacio and Patrick for taking a stab at this and really making sure that that this conservancy is really for that purpose only, and not to be in conflict with a lot of the work that we're doing here. I also want to thank the chairman for bringing up the issue with the tribe, and I agree with him. And I did see that was not included on the red lines, but happy to hear that Patrick's going to take on that language. Yeah, I think it's what we're doing here is a good thing for the locals. It's unfortunate that we have to try to do this in this way, but it seems like there was from the very beginning a lack of communication, a lack of effort to try to understand our viewpoints here by the locals, and really what this bill, if not amended, would the consequences that would create, the unintended consequences. So I'm happy with the language, and I'm hopeful that the senator will take on the language. I was able to meet with him. I'm not sure if I have communicated that before, but Supervisor Perez and I met with him about a month ago in person. And I did ask him if he was open to us redlining the bill and then sending them the language. And so I do think that that's our responsibility, was to provide this document, and I'm hopeful that he's going to agree with our changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Estrada. Okay. With that, I will now open the public comment portion of this item. Do we have anybody in chambers wanting to make public comment? We do not. I'm sorry, sir. Online? Okay, so now I'm going to go online, and it seems that we have Mr.
You are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Ruiz, yes, we can.
Oh, thank you, members of the board. And I want to share my perspective and I will love the authority to reconsider its position on what kind of language should be included in the conservancy. As someone who is in the trenches of how the second largest habitat restoration of the sea, one of the reasons why we support a conservancy that may have the ability to implement projects on the ground is because we understand that the way the current system is set is not conducive for any fast or expeditious implementation of any project on the ground. It took 15 years to break ground on the SEH. And at this pace, it will be difficult to really be productive and be fruitful when it comes to habitat restoration implementations. So therefore, one of the reasons why we support this conservancy, and I will love the authority to study it and consider the different options. This conservancy can implement the projects, and it will not be the first one. There is already a precedent, by other conservancies, to have the ability to implement projects on the ground and consolidate all the different agencies, all the different stakeholders, bring everyone under one umbrella and create a system. We may agree or disagree on what the conservancy can do. But one thing, that we may agree is, that the current system is not conducive, for a fast implementation of any project. And therefore, I want to invite the authority to study it, to reconsider it, to see the pros and cons, and to be dialectic in this approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ruiz. Do we have any additional public comment?
Michael Cohen. Mr. Cohen, you are unmuted. You can unmute yourself.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I want to thank the board members for reconsidering their previous position on the conservancy, and I'm excited to see the progress being made on evaluating the role of a potential conservancy. One thing I would, request is that I think it would be an excellent opportunity for the authority to convene a number of different stakeholders and bring in the senator or the senator's staff for a broader and potentially robust conversation about the role of the conservancy, to hear different amendments or different language from other stakeholders so that we can come to a consensus opinion. I think that would be a great opportunity for the authority to demonstrate this local leadership, to bring in these different viewpoints and to move this bill, which I'm assuming now is going to be a 2-year bill, so that we can have a good understanding of different viewpoints and how to really strengthen the state's program to work with the authority and to ensure that all viewpoints are heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, I will bring it back to chambers. Entertain motions. We do have a motion from Director Kelly.
Could I make a quick comment regarding Mr. Cohen's?
Yes, I have a.
If I just briefly, Mr. Cohen mentioned in my recommendation to the board, in addition to the position change that I advanced, I also made the recommendation. Staff recommends the authority request that Senator Padilla schedule an open stakeholder meeting to educate the public about the legislation and discuss how best address the challenges outlined therein. And of course, the authority staff would be happy to assist the senator in putting such a gathering together.
Excellent. Director Estrada.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to emphasize that at the beginning of when we started engaging on this bill, I think our at minimum, our request to the senator was that there be enough time provided for purposes of really understanding what a conservancy would look like and what would be the best form for it to take. So I'm happy to hear Mr. Cohen's comments in that regard. because that was exactly at the beginning, our request. And I think the fact that we are providing this letter is simply as a result of there not being really a path that allowed for that type of engagement, being that the bill is moving at a pretty fast pace, even as we attempt here at the authority to make connection with the senator and suggestions. So we again are happy that Senator has taken an interest on addressing Salton issues, but we want to make sure that it fits with all the other work that's being done by other agencies, and that it's not to create more issues. So happy to hear that. I thank you, Patrick, for clarifying that that's also some, in a way, embedded into the language. And just again, I think that that's what we've been saying from the very beginning, is this bill is moving too fast and it needs to be slowed down because we really need to get into the weeds of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Okay, bringing it back to this dais. Last comment I had, we were considering or entertaining motions. We had a motion by Director Kelly. It has been a few comments ago, so what I would like to do is have that motion restated.
The motion is to accept the recommendation to oppose unless amended, and to incorporate the language provided by Torres Martinez and Director Cortez regarding I think it was subparagraph 2. Anyways, to reflect that.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Kelly, a second by Director Estrada. Madam Clerk, can you please go ahead and do a roll call vote?
President Plancarte,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Vice President Santianes, Director Tortes,
Yes.
Secretary Estrada,
Yes.
Treasurer Cardenas, Director Dockstader,
Abstain.
Director Perez, Mr. Chairman, motion passed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item passes. Before we adjourn, I'd like to remind everybody that our next regular scheduled meeting is going to be on Thursday, June 22nd, 10 a.m. at the North Shore Beach and Yacht Club and Mecca. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Lisa, am I gonna be